All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend Live podcast with your host, Ricardo Rice, and my co-host,
Simone Cherie.
All right, so you see there's three of us in here, and it's not a ghost. Yes. I promise you. It's a real person. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. We can go from there.
Good morning, everyone. I am Attorney Melanie LaGrone. I'm an immigration and criminal defense attorney in Georgia and St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I am excited about being here. Thank you.
We're excited to have you. I feel like you've been eluding me for like 6 months.
Yes.
So, it's fine. I was finally able to get you in here. Tell us a little more, like, where's your practice, things that magnitude?
So I am in Lawrenceville. So downtown Lawrenceville is where my office is. But, with immigration, we can, I can handle cases in all 50 states.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't matter where you are.
Beautiful.
You can still call my office. And then I also have an office down in St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we handle
why you always be out living your best life?
Yeah, that's why I didn't have time.
Sounds nice.
She's out living her best life because we follow each other on Facebook. I'm just like, is she gone again?
Mm-hmm.
I love that for you. All right, so what do we want to start with?
Yeah, I have so many questions for you because part of what we are going to cover and part of the reason it's so important, I think, to have someone with your expertise here is because of our current administration and, frankly, the war that they have waged against anyone who, whether or not they have birthright citizenship, anyone who's considered a migrant, recent immigrant, and currently is taking this, I think, further than we've ever seen a president take it. So I'm very curious to see what you have to say. We're going to cover a lot of recent events with regard to the administration, including the homecoming program. So the offer of $1,000 bonus, which is a favorite of the administration so far. We're also going to talk about some recent changes that have happened for individuals who are in school and who may or may not be considered first-generation Americans and what this means for their economic futures. Then we're going to talk a little bit about an English-only executive order. We didn't cover this quite as much back in March, but there's business implications too I think we should talk about. And then we can talk a little bit more about the media and also ways that people, so citizens and activists, have been trying to organize and start to build some power against some of these policies. And hopefully to hear a lot more about yourself too, because I'm curious what brought you to that field of law at all. So
I'm not gonna lie, when I came across, I was like, wait, a black immigration lawyer, that's what, because we've had Elizabeth Gavrish to come and talk. Yeah. She came last year or the year before last. So I was like, wait, there's an African American lawyer that does immigration. I've got to see that. I've got to hear this.
Yeah.
So I think for me, painting the picture is what we always do. Mm-hmm. So let's start at brass tacks. Like, what is immigration? How does that work? Those kinds of things. So like the process itself, like.
Yeah.
Okay, so immigration is a broad range of things, obviously, because one, you could have business immigration to where you have employers who are attempting to get employees from out of the country.
Oh, yeah.
To come and work for them, right? Because there's U.S. citizens that don't want certain jobs or are not maybe educated enough for certain positions. So they have to go out of the country to find someone to come in. Mm-hmm. There's also where you have like family-based, where, you have a United States citizen that's here and, they might have met the love of their life out of the country.
90 Day Fiancé.
I love that show.
You would. I'm not surprised that you like 90 Day Fiancé.
This is my favorite show.
It's good to hear that you like it.
And I used to do like talks on it. Like, let me tell you about so-and-so. I know, right? That's I digress.
Okay.
But yes, you go out on vacation and you click with somebody, you meet the love of your life, and now you want to bring that person here. Mm-hmm. So yes, fiancé visa is coming to the U.S. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you have, just other type of immigrants, because don't forget, everyone is pretty much an immigrant.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We all came from somewhere.
Right.
All right. We landed here somehow. Mm-hmm. And the process of immigration is just so that person can legally stay in the United States. Mm-hmm. And then that's just a process that you have to go through.
And I know there's lots of different types, but can you kind of explain maybe what one of those types is? If you're an employer, if you're a student, or if it's a family thing, can you just explain like what that? Because I don't think a lot of people actually. Yeah, because
there's like so many different types of visas.
So it's like A to Z. That's what it's like an alphabet soup of visas. Okay, so if you're a student out of the country and you want to come here to the U.S., it's an F1 student visa.
Okay.
If you are an employer and that you're seeking to bring someone here for employment, it could be like an H-1B, all these other different types of visas. So there's all different types. Mm-hmm. The fiancé visa is a K-1 visa.
I'm about to say, is that what it's called, the fiancé? Okay, I'm about to say, is it called fiancé visa?
We call it fiancé visa because it's easier. Because, it's just like
letters.
The language of everybody.
Sure.
You use fiancé visa. But yeah, it's a K-1.
Mm-hmm. So how long does it take?
Fiancé visas?
Yeah. Does it cost a lot of money? Like, is it like, does everyone hire an attorney?
Well, there are other sides too. So it's like, because I watch the show from time to time. So it's like a family has to sponsor. And you explain. It's you explain because when I see it is
so, and this is what I tell like my clients or potential clients when they call. So a fiance visa is obviously you've met the love of your life out of the country, you want to bring them here. Okay. You had to have seen them within the past 2 years.
Okay.
So we're not talking about you're just on Match
FaceTime
or some type of dating app and you want to bring somebody here. You have to go visit or you have to meet somewhere.
How can they prove that though?
For the last 2 years, because the government's going to ask. We have to have travel itinerary. We have to have documents. We have to have pictures, like things to show that you've met this person in the last 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So fill out the application, have all the information, the evidence, things like that to show that you have a bona fide like relationship, like dating relationship, because it's not as extensive as a marriage type of green card. That gets approved. Your fiance is going to have an interview out of the country, at a embassy or consulate out of the country. They get a visa stamped in their passport to come to the United States. When they get to the United States, you have to marry within 90 days.
I see. Okay.
But then there's some other things that actually like, because it seems like on the show they're asking about their income and then they're talking to their families like, hey, can you guys support us? Or, do they ask those kind of questions too?
So that's like that's part of the process. So obviously you have to have enough income, you know what I'm saying, as a U.S. citizen to support your household of however many people is going to be in your household here in the U.S.
Wow.
And it's 125% over the poverty guidelines. So whatever that number is, and there's a chart on Google, so you can look it up and it'll say, okay, a family of 2, you have to at least bring in like, I think it's like $20,000 or $25,000 or something like that.
Numbers.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I'm curious about, okay, so are most people managing this process on their own without an attorney, or is it almost impossible?
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Like,
they try. So here's the thing. Immigration is more than just filling out forms.
Okay.
People think it is just filling out forms. It's, you go to uscis.gov, you download the forms, and you fill them out. Those forms are like 20, 30 pages. They're very extensive. They ask a lot of questions and a lot of questions that you may not know. Now the government is even making it where if you aren't going, like if a question doesn't apply, you have to write NA. Because if you don't write NA, they're going to send the form back. Now, mind you probably have 1,000 NAs.
Sure.
On a form.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
So it's not just filling out a form. It's a lot more than that because you have to supply the evidence. And even though, the government gives you like a list of evidence, once again, it's still not just sending in that evidence. You have to build a picture for them. And that's what I always tell all of my clients. Like, I have to build a story.
Yeah.
Because they're going to want to just deny you. Like, in their mind, it's deny. Everybody wants a green card. Everybody wants to be here on a green card. Everybody wants.
Gotcha.
You get
so
what
the
I'm saying?
default is not that it will be approved.
No.
Okay.
Exactly. Like, you have to build a picture of your story.
So do you know if America is really unique in that? Like, is it harder here than it would be for somebody trying to go to Canada, maybe, if you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We definitely make it much more harder. Even right now, if you look at all the people who are exiting, the U.S., there's a lot of Facebook groups and things like that. They're like, and I got my, permanent residency or I got my visa in such and such a time frame. And all I need to do is stay there for a couple of years, then I can get my green. No. The U.S. has always made it very, very difficult because they don't, want people.
Yeah. This is the place. This is the place to say what you please.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the place.
You can be honest. Like we trying to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, like we were saying, in the beginning, these are things I would say we didn't really think about. It was okay. Even with him coming in, it was like, well, we know he's after. He's after, the Hispanics. He wants to get them out of here. Now it's turning to no. We're going around in circles. So it's like, it was them, and now it's other people. It's like, so can this circle back to us? Like, it's kind of where we're sitting now. And you're like, well, things can't happen. I'm like, yeah, we said that. And now we're sitting here with almost a dismantled Department of Education, a major decrease in the CDC, health, and anything is actually possible now. So it's very, very scary. All right, so let's move into business. If I have a business and I want to bring employees over, what does that look like? What do they need? What does that process look like? Is it easier? Is it harder? Does it revolve around money? Like, is it easier to get more if you have money? Like,
so, excuse me. So this is what I'm going to say. So with immigration attorneys, we all specialize in certain fields because immigration is so broad. Okay. Like, for instance, I don't do business. I know a little bit about employment based, but I won't take a client that is saying, okay, I'm going to come over, or I want to come over on an H-1B, an L-1, a transferee type of company, things like that. Because we have so many different segments. So we have business immigration, we have family-based immigration, we have humanitarian, like your VAWAs for domestic violence, your T visas for human trafficking, things like that. And we have, I'm missing one, removal defense. So those are for people that are about to be deported. So there's like different categories of immigration.
Good grief. Actually, that last one, I'm very curious about, because that'll lead us into what's happening. Mm-hmm. So this removal, what does that look like? How does that happen? Actually, before you go there, because I'm still in this 90-day fiancé thing. So I'm still in this 90-day fiancé thing. Yeah. So once I do all that and I get here, are there rules once I get here outside of the marriage thing? Because let's say it doesn't happen. We don't get married.
Then you have to go back.
And what kind of time frame?
Like, so if you don't get married within that 90 days, okay, then you have to go back. So at that 91 day.
If you're not married.
If you're not married, right. Because now your visa has expired. Remember, your visa is only good for 90 days.
I mean, they're like, how serious? Well, I know it's serious now. But before now, how serious was that? Like, is ICE at your door on the 91st day like, let's go?
No, because at the end of the day, technically, how do you know?
That's kind of where I'm
You get what I'm saying?
Like,
exactly.
How would you know? Like,
how do you know? But now you are in the U.S. without status, right? And so you can't work.
Oh, that's true.
You can't drive. You have
illegal.
the potential of being deported, which you don't want a deportation order on your record. So it's better to just leave. Because now you're open for more immigration benefits in the future.
Yeah, but if it's the 91st day and your visa expired, is that going to make it hard for you to get on a plane?
No. Because now it's like, well, it didn't work. My visa's expired, but now I can go back because you have your passport.
Oh. So is there anything you could do if that doesn't work out to stay? What's that look?
Be open to love.
Find another sucker to get married to. That's why you give that look like you didn't want to say what I say. So you find another sucker to get married to.
Since you said that,
you were thinking it. I just said it.
Can you explain also for anyone who may have silly ideas what consequences are, right? Because it's bigger than just, well, can I or can I not? What if there's a case of, I guess, fraud?
Yes, you can't marry for a green card.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. Okay?
Could you end up in trouble?
Yes. So if you have a fraud determination on your file, okay, you might not ever be able to get another marriage-based green card. Okay. You can also be subject to, criminal penalties. They usually, for the most part, don't do that, but they will put the fraud determination on your record, and that will be with you forever.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Just in case.
So I just say, just be open.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of people, go to Target. Don't ask me.
You don't get to make a statement and tell me don't ask. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like,
I told you, I get a whole bunch of stories.
I want one.
I love it because I didn't realize I was so I love love. I didn't realize it until it gets
you're very giddy about this whole love
it's
thing.
Hilarious. But people will tell me, I was walking through Target one day and because I asked you, if you come to my office, I'm like, tell me your story. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you guys love each other?
Mm-hmm.
How did this come up? How did you meet? And we get all into the weeds of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's at the store.
I need the craziest story you've heard in the last year. I'm just so curious.
If you can safely say so.
You don't have to use names.
Right? I know. I'm trying to think a crazy story.
Or one that sticks in your head that you just never can forget. That's your go-to story.
Well, it's not a story on how they met. It was actually a fiancé visa. And this gentleman came to my office. And this was a manly man. He was a big guy. And And he was telling me about the love of his life. Okay. Out of the country, how he met her. He had gone to visit a friend and, they met, whatever. So he comes back and he's telling me the story. And I told you, right? I get all in the weeds. Okay, well, tell me, how do you feel about her? And why do you want her here? And this, and y'all, he started crying. Crying. Like, he was so in love with this person. Aww. Like, he started crying. And I was like, okay, now I'm tearing up. And then he's like, I'm losing my man card. Yes, you are. Yes,
I hope you didn't tell him that.
I did.
Wow. Wow.
Did it work out?
It did. Huh. She got here. They got married. We processed her green card after that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And now we can't wait to make her a citizen.
Wow.
Because I tell everybody, like, that's the process. Don't think that you're stopping at a green card because you're not safe. A green card is lawful permanent residency.
Okay.
You're not safe at a green card. You can still be deported.
You can still be deported. And, so even under what circumstances? Like, why?
So, for instance, unfortunately, what people think is, like I said, I have my green card. I'm a lawful permanent resident. I've been here for 20, 30 years. I'm not going to be a criminal. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get in trouble with the law. So I'm fine. Why do I need to be a citizen? Well, lo and behold, what'll happen is you're riding with your boy in the car. You get pulled over by the police. Your boy got some stuff in the car that you didn't even know about. And now you get in trouble as well.
If you have a green card, would the same process happen for you if we take that further? Like you have a right to an attorney and, a right to see a judge and all of that. Do you end up in the same system or do you end up maybe in a different system?
So for criminal wise, you end up in the same system.
Okay.
But then when you go into deportation or removal proceedings, now you're going in before an immigration judge.
Gotcha.
That is where you don't have a right to an attorney.
Oh.
You have to pay for your own attorney.
Wow. Gotcha.
Or go through the system by yourself.
So can a green card evolve into something else that makes you safer?
Citizenship. So now you apply to be a U.S. citizen.
How long is there a process where you haven't been here for a certain amount of time? Or
so if you received your green card through marriage, you can become a citizen after 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
If you received it any other way, then you have to wait 5 years.
What's another way?
Okay. Like an employer. So an employer sponsored you. You have your H-1B, then it turned into a sponsorship, then you got your green card. Now you have to wait 5 years to become a citizen. A student. What else? VAWA. Okay, so Violence Against Women's Act. All right, is really it's a huge thing right now, and it doesn't have to be against women. It can be against men as well. So you're in a relationship with an abusive spouse. That spouse won't allow you to get a green card, or that spouse says, I'm going to call, threatens you. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm going to call ICE. You're an immigrant. You're illegal. You need me for money, things like that. So it could be any type of abuse. They can petition to get their green card on their own. So without their spouse.
Okay.
All right.
Oh. Okay.
So then once they get their green card, they have to wait 5 years before they can become a citizen.
Okay.
But at this point, they're independent of their spouse.
Yes.
Is there any reason that your citizenship application would be denied if it's been 5 years for an employer and 3 years with a spouse? Can they still say no to your citizenship app?
Yes. They can say no for criminal reasons. So if you have something on your background, maybe something that's not deportable, but something that's keeping you from becoming a citizen. Another thing is they look at good moral character. So they go back.
Language like that is really funny.
5 years.
Because how do they define that?
Well, if you have been arrested, you don't have good moral character.
Okay.
If you
technically our president has
taxes. You don't have good moral character. Right? If you owe child support, you don't have good moral character.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So basically anyone who is not a US citizen, not by birthright, but who has obtained a citizenship card is probably just the epitome of a human being. Because they're not doing any of the stuff that other U.S. citizens do all the time.
Literally, including the president.
Right.
Including the president.
Right.
Well, basically. There you go. Exactly. Yes, there's so much of a higher standard for immigrants.
Wow.
Wow. It's above and beyond.
So what about family visas? Like, what do those look like?
So let's say I was an immigrant. I came to the United States. I might be here as a student. Okay. Or I might be here, what we call illegally, without status. All right. I find the love of my life. I marry a U.S. citizen. Now that U.S. citizen can sponsor me and petition for me to get my green card.
Okay. What if you have family because I meet a lot of people who have family back home, who have kids or a spouse or whatever back home. So and it feels like they've been waiting for years or maybe even over a decade just to be able to bring their own family?
Yes. So
is that because of money?
No, it's because of time frames. So There is what's called a visa bulletin. Okay. On the visa bulletin tells you who is first preference, who is second preference, who is third preference of getting a visa. Okay.
In your family.
Yes. So first preference is your parents, you as a your spouse, okay, or your parents, things like that. You know, down the line, second, third preference, things like that are siblings. So siblings could take 15 years plus. Jeez. So if I'm here, let's say I got married to a U.S. citizen, I'm here, I got my green card, okay? Now I became a citizen in 3 years. Now I want to bring my sister over, okay? It could take forever, especially if you're over 21, 10, 15, whatever years. But if I want to bring my mom is a first preference. So that can be, exactly. Time frame is less. Like if I want to bring my parents.
So are we talking about the length of the process, or are we talking about the priority thing? It's
the priority date. So the process could only take, let's say you can get an approval in, you know, I don't know right now what time frames are. So let's say
that part.
That part, right. I always tell people Google it. Whatever it says on Google is the time frame. Okay. Just go with that. So let's say 12 to 18 months, possibly. Let's say you have an approval. But now you're going to wait 10 years.
It's just like a waiting period.
Before the visa is available for you to get that stamp to come.
Gotcha.
So there's an actual time frame for even with the priority. So let's say it's your mother's, the actual number is 10 years.
But the mom is now. So moms and spouses, visas are immediately available. Correct. Parents and spouses, I should say. Oh, okay. But siblings, it's a long time.
What about kids?
Kids, it's immediate.
Okay, so kids.
If you're under 21.
What's the difference?
If you're over 21, now you're going to do the same thing.
Oh,
it's going to be 5, 10, 15 years.
You're an adult now.
Oh, if the kid is under 21. Oh, okay. Okay.
So kids you can bring over that are not adults. You can bring them over immediately.
Correct.
Gotcha. Wow.
And that's the thing, because immigration changes all the time. Every second. We have paperwork that changes every second. And this is why we say don't try to do this on your own, because you don't know all these little intricacies, you know, that type of thing. So All
right. So now we're fast forwarding to the time we're in now.
Yeah.
Is the fight about how we're deporting people, or is the fight about getting them out of here quickly? Because now we start getting into these acts he's trying to enforce, this alien thing act, things that magnitude. So what is the real fight now? Because I don't think it's necessarily getting people in, it's getting people out. And it seems to be how we're getting them out. Like, is that where we're sitting
completely now? The wrong way. So the fight is, just deport everybody.
Clearly.
And you know what I'm saying? Right now, and you guys, I get goosebumps. Sorry. Look, I get goosebumps. And I do get emotional because, you know, the last situation that was in the forefront of the news that I can remember was there was a mom who was being deported. And she had 3 U.S. citizen children. Okay. One of them had cancer and was like literally getting treatment here. Like they were going through, like it was bad. And they deported her and her 3 kids. Now, mind you, remember the kids are U.S. citizens. Gone. A mom where she was breastfeeding her child. They deported the mom, the baby's still here.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess my question in that situation, if the kids are U.S. citizens, does that mean they were automatically born here, which made them U.S. citizens?
Correct.
But she had to be here, so she was here illegally? And that... Ooh. So that's where we get into the kind of, I got here and I kept my head down in essence. And
correct.
I've been here for the longest and nobody's bothered me.
Right.
But now that somebody cares, now it's like, you're not legal.
Yes.
So we can get rid of you.
Right. And you're not a criminal. Because remember, his whole thing was, I'm deporting criminals. You know, those bad people, those bad immigrants.
Sure. Right.
No. I'm a mom of 3 kids, 1 with cancer. How am I? I'm not a criminal.
I'm also curious about, so because you mentioned this, Ricardo, Trump v. Casa, the case that's being heard before the Supreme Court, I think in less than a week, I think in this next week that's coming up, is a big hearing. And I think it's a big hearing specifically because the Supreme Court, they said, does not hear a lot of cases in May, first of all. This has to be a really pressing priority. But there was a executive order that Trump issued. It was I think one of the first things he did, right, it was like January 20th, basically stating that we needed to look at restricting citizenship and looking at birthright citizenship. In particular, if someone's parents were not citizens, if they were illegal, I hate using some of the terminology he uses, if they were undocumented, that is when he said we need to relook at birthright citizenship, which is huge. And a lot of people, I think, scoffed at, like they always scoff at the things that he says. I don't scoff because I take a lot of it very seriously.
Well, I think we stopped. We used to. Now it's just like, no. This could happen.
And a hearing is, it's just a hearing, right? But organizations like CASA, who are essentially the other party in this case, have filed lawsuits. There's actually over 120 organizations that have filed suits in response to that particular executive order, but it's still receiving a hearing. And we have a GOP, controlled Supreme Court, and a lot of people do believe that. So it's one of two things. I think it's giving a platform, like we said before, for people to look and to listen and to hear what are probably going to be some really gross and ridiculous arguments. It's making the issue a topic of conversation. Even if it doesn't result in what he wants, which is that executive order, it's still, I think, a big part of him pushing his agenda. And again, it was one of the first things that he did, which I think should be concerning to a lot of people, right? We've always said that if you're born here, that's it. I mean, you are a citizen, and we're all rights and protections afforded to you. So it feels very much like it, not only would it implicate millions of Americans, right, who are citizens by birth and who are in those same circumstances, but it would also help him to make the rest of his agenda much easier.
Which is, in essence, what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I guess what we should look at first is, what does deportation look like? What does that look like? Like, are you identified and they're sending ICE to your house? And let's say pre-Trump. Pre-Trump, what did that look like?
Okay, so let's go. So like Obama era, okay? He deported millions of people as well, okay? So, but the thing is that either they had final orders of removal, like already, okay? And maybe they got into trouble, okay, criminally. All right. Now it's like, okay, you had this final order. Now you got into some criminal whatever. Now we're going to, deport you.
Okay, wait. So you said final order. So do you get like letters saying, hey, you've done... Actually...
Like your visa's expired?
Is criminal activity what puts you on the map the fastest?
Yes. The fastest. Correct.
What else could put you on the map? Like, what else could put you on the radar outside of just committing crimes?
If you were, like I said, already in removal proceedings. So, for instance, let's say you didn't know that you had a hearing. Okay. So there's something called removal in absentia. Okay. So somehow you didn't know that you had a hearing in front of the immigration court. You didn't show up.
Okay. Does that happen randomly? Like, what would get you hauled into immigration court?
Just by crossing the border.
Oh. So
because don't forget, when you cross the border, if you cross, let's say like down in like St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, because it's the water, okay? You have ways of sneaking in where nobody knows that you're here, okay? But let's say, the Mexico-U.S. border, if you're crossing the border, people know you're here because you're going through customs, right? Yeah. So they're gonna, they'll probably take your fingerprints. You might be, saying that I'm seeking asylum or whatever, and they'll be like, okay, we'll let you in, and then you'll have to fight it out in court, and you'll get a court date one day, that type of thing. So they know that you're here. Okay. And, and here without status. So let's say you get put in removal proceedings, you miss that court date. Now the judge issues you an order of removal in absentia. Okay. So that would be a final order that maybe you didn't know about. Okay. So now thefts, a lot of thefts happen. I don't know why, from Walmart. Whatever.
It's a poverty crime.
You get what I'm saying, right? And you get in trouble for theft. Okay. So now you have a criminal record, right? And you had the final order. So now when you go back before the judge, it's like, well, you're leaving because you already had a final order. Now you have a crime conviction also. And now we're going to deport you.
So is that like
we're not going to let you go. You're detained and then you're going to go to your home country.
So it's like you go before a criminal judge and he's like, okay, well, this is actually an immigration thing. So it's like you need to go down to courtroom 6A and they're like, yeah. So
no, you finish your criminal case. Yeah. Well, for the most part, you finish your criminal case.
They have to defend you guilty.
They have to, exactly. And you either have to take a plea or you go to trial. So just like if one of us got arrested, we're going to criminal court.
Yeah.
We got to finish out that, get that resolved. Okay. But one thing about if you're an immigrant and you go to criminal court, once it's resolved, okay, now you go to ICE custody. Okay. Or the problem that I usually have is people want to bond their family out of criminal jail. Okay. So you get put in jail. Like I said, let's go back to theft. You get put in jail. You have a bond amount. Okay. But you also have an ICE hold because you're undocumented.
So you can't be bonded out.
Right. But what happens is families, they're like, no, we don't want our family member to sit in jail. They go to bond them out. Well, when they pay the money, now you're released from that jurisdiction, right? So now ICE has jurisdiction over you. They come pick you up. Now you're down in Stewart, and it's much worse than being in criminal jail.
Well, given that scenario that we were just talking about, if they put you down there, there's no more arguing, there's no more cases, you're deported.
Well, no, you can file a bond. You can, if you have, reason for a bond, you might have, maybe you have a legal way to stay. And it hasn't been, enforced yet. Like nobody's filed a petition, things like that. So there's things that you can argue. But the problem is that you still have an open criminal case. So it's like arguing, yeah, he's got an open criminal case, but he wants an opportunity to, or she wants an opportunity to defend herself in that case, and she has a legal way to stay. So please let her go, and it's a struggle. Versus if you just stay in criminal jail, resolve that case. Then if you have to go to ICE, now, obviously, if you have a great attorney and let's say that case got dismissed or it got, put into, something, pretrial diversion, whatever. Now, when you do go to ICE, you have a leg to stand on because it's like, oh, well, I don't have a criminal case anymore. And I have a legal way to stay. Please give me a bond out of ICE custody. So it's a whole,
Yeah, it's a rigmarole.
For sure. It is.
Yeah, I'm really curious about we've been talking about the economy for a while, and mostly with respect to tariffs. And I feel like outside of the very clear, racist and xenophobic arguments that the Trump administration has put forth for all of these policies, it's always this, there's this illusion about saving money, right? We're spending so much money. And then people who are here who are not citizens are costing us so much money, which is completely inaccurate. Just by the numbers,
they're taking our jobs.
They're absolutely not taking our jobs.
They're not paying taxes.
Not to be billionaires, to be fair. Everyone pays prisoners pay taxes. But this program, Project Homecoming, so this is Trump's newest reality TV sounding offer of offering people $1,000 to just show up at any airport in the United States and to take a flight anywhere, and that it will be paid for, and that you'll have $1,000 as an exit bonus. It's certainly not funny. Don't know anyone who's taken advantage of it. Don't believe anyone will take advantage of it. But what we have seen are pictures of hundreds of people who have been recently deported to either Venezuela in particular and have had to cover their faces, to all other sorts of countries after sitting in detention for months in many cases. Skipping through all of the normal, I think, protocols that we were just talking about, like what may have happened before, where people are just they're all being sent to Louisiana and just having to sit there and waiting until they're deported.
So I guess that's the other question for me. It's like Obama era or previous presidents, was it a priority to find out where you're from and send you back there, even if he wasn't born there? Versus now it's like, we're just sending you wherever. We just don't want you here. So we're sending you wherever. Was there a difference?
Right, which previously? You can't do. So now you're sending people to countries to where they have no family, they have no friends, they were not born there. So now how are they supposed to live and make a living and even function in a country that's not their own? And then how do you not, is that country adverse to their home country?
That part.
You get what I'm saying? How are they going to be treated there? Things like that. So no, the proper way is if you declare Mexico is your home country, if you declare Haiti is your home country, whatever, then you go back to your home country.
Mm-hmm. So that's how it was, that you would go back to you.
To be.
Well, right. I mean, we know. I know, but we're dealing in a Twilight Zone now. So
I say that every day. I feel like I'm in
the
Twilight Zone.
We're in Twilight Zone. It's... Every day. What should be is no longer it, and what should not be is now possible. So
how can you send me to Timbuktu and I don't even know Timbuktu?
Well, I'm trying to figure out the argument because like I said, he tried to impose that alien thing, which hasn't been done in decades. Down, right? Yeah. Do you know what that is?
So only from obviously reading up on it or whatever. So some act way back when they could send citizens from another country to other countries based off of what they're saying. Like he was trying to use it as the gang members. So these are all gang members and we're going to send them to El Salvador, even though they're from Venezuela. So then El Salvador can deal with them. Mm-hmm.
So it's basically just a plan to get them out of here. Yeah. Their philosophy
is concentration camps, like Guantanamo Bay, like that's what he's doing.
Well, apparently he wants to reopen Alcatraz.
Yeah.
So, which got closed down because it was way too much money to operate. I think it would take like $3 million to even get it back running, and he wants to do that.
And Guantanamo's back.
Mm. Oh, good Lord!
Yeah.
So, in addition to this, in addition to actually, is there anything else that we want to cover specifically about immigration? Because there's so much else. There's so much more. And so
well, we should deter to this one. Is there anything that we need to cover that people just don't know that is killing and getting people deported at this point?
Well, one, I always tell people, so I understand that you have to drive because a lot of people have to drive for their families. So you got to drive to take your kids to school. You got to drive to work, things like that. But if you don't have a driver's license, you're putting yourself on the radar. Mm-hmm. If you've been here for 20 something years and you've been like, because you didn't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. Now you do have to worry about it because that stop sign that you ran, okay? Or that license plate that looks like this and it's supposed to be straight is getting you pulled over and getting you detained and getting you deported. A gentleman got detained. He had 4 kids in his car. And he got detained because he got pulled over for something stupid. I think he didn't have a registration or it was expired. And then they showed that he didn't have a license. And now he was detained.
So the people that have been here with their head down.
You have to continue to keep your head down.
Should people be flying? I have that question. Should people be flying right now?
She said no earlier, so she said
I tell everybody, you are literally, if you are traveling at your own risk.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because I feel like I've also heard people say don't live in fear
and don't live in fear. Yeah, look, I'm on TikTok, and a lot of my TikTok videos talk about travel because I get the phone calls. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get the phone calls of. Me and my girlfriend went down to, we're going to say St. Thomas because people don't understand that even though it's U.S., it's a port of entry. You have to go through immigration.
Oh.
Okay? You got to go through immigration. Coming back, right? Me and my girlfriend, we went down to, the Virgin Islands and, it was for a bachelorette party and this, that, and the other. And we got to the airport and she got stopped and she couldn't get on the plane. Okay, well, why couldn't she get on the plane? Well, because she has, let's say, a pending case and she doesn't have status. Well, why'd you guys go to St. Thomas? Well, because it's the U.S. it's the U.S., but it's a port of entry. So when you come back, you have to go through immigration. So now she's detained. She misses her flight. The girls all have to go back without her. And they're frantic, like, well, what do we do, this, that, and the other? And I'm like, well, they're probably going to let her go and send her back to her home, to her state, to whatever state she came from. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to put her in removal proceedings once she gets to her state.
Wow. Whoa, wait, what?
Wow.
She'll get a notice to appear. And she'll have to fight it out in immigration court.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you gave me a question.
Just real quick. So to your point, so people always tell me, stop fear-mongering people. Stop telling them they can't travel. Stop, it's domestic and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm just telling you the stories that I get every day in my office.
Okay, thank you for saying that.
So it's at your own risk.
Okay, so going through immigration versus going through regular, I'm on a cruise and I don't have to go through immigration. What is the difference? Are they scanning for more stuff?
Cruises, the cruise is different because don't forget, cruises go to different ports. Cruises go out of the country. So you definitely don't want to be on a cruise if you're undocumented. That's for sure. What happens if, it gets stuck in a country and you can't get back? Now what? So let's talk about domestically. So just flying domestically. Mm-hmm. I'm in Atlanta. I want to fly, back home to Michigan. Okay. You technically should be okay.
Technically.
Right.
What does technically mean?
Exactly.
How could something else intervene if it's domestic?
Let's say, I mean, and this could, be far-fetched, but my plane gets diverted because of whatever reason.
What about even a random security screening? Like those, you've been selected for a deeper security screening type thing.
I thought it was a frisk thing because what's on your person. Can they go another?
I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. Because you're risking it. I don't know. Anything could happen. We can see nowadays anything could happen.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? But, driving, okay, what about if there's some sort of checkpoint? They want to do some random checkpoint somewhere for immigration purposes.
I've seen those.
You can do that. ICE can do that.
So, what about
stay out of Florida. Well, we won't talk about that.
Actually, we will. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Definitely.
Stay out of Florida.
You have to tell me twice.
You know what I'm talking about? Because if you're undocumented, don't go to Florida.
Oh, well.
Don't be in a car with somebody if you're undocumented. Don't be in Florida because they not having it. They are making it a crime.
Really?
Crime.
Mm-hmm. What, to be undocumented?
To exist without status in Florida.
No, Florida's not known for great legislation these days. If we're honest, they're not known for great legislation these days.
But so you travel at your own risk. And you definitely don't go out of country. I mean, that's definitely, you just don't go out of country. I had matter of fact, someone... I remember she has a pending case. She decided she wanted to go out of the country because her boyfriend or whatever got into an accident or something like that. And she wanted to go. And when she came back in, she had a problem coming back because she has a pending case. She was out of status prior to that. And now she doesn't have a green card yet, right? Because her case is still pending. Mm. They let her back in, but we don't know now what's going to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Actually, I want to go back because you kind of blew my mind with that. I want to go back to the example of the girlfriends and the girl gets sent back to her state.
Yeah.
Run that back for me.
All the time.
Run that back. Give me another example.
Okay, so I had another scenario of a couple who wanted to go down to the islands to celebrate their anniversary. She's a U.S. citizen. He doesn't have status. And it was because of all other reasons that he couldn't get his green card. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, it's the U.S. We didn't think nothing of it. Same thing. They try to come back to the States, and he got detained. She had to come home without him. And then when they got back to their state, he was issued a notice to appear. So he had to go fight it out in immigration court.
So is there immigration court in every state, or it's located in one place that you have to go back to?
There's different, yeah. Mostly every state, I think, has immigration courts.
So he has to go to the immigration court in his state.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, because... In the islands, obviously, they don't want to detain so many people down there. You know what I'm saying? Plus, their court and their detention centers like in Puerto Rico. But so they'll let you go. They'll let you leave, and then you fight it out in your state.
And what does that look like? Like fighting it out in your state? What does that look like?
So that means getting a notice to appear. When you get a notice to appear, you have to appear before the immigration court on that date and time. Mm-hmm. You have to go before the court. You're going to have, usually when you go the first time, you don't have a lawyer because you probably don't know that you need one. Mm. And the judge is going to ask you, do you want to get a lawyer and try to fight this? So get a lawyer. Lawyer comes back. You're going to have what's called a master's hearing. The master's hearing is basically where they're going to substantiate the notice to appear. So it's going to say there's boxes that are checked on there. So you are not a citizen of the United States. You are a citizen of, whatever country. You entered at some port, whatever, some day and time. Okay. And you don't have a visa to be here or a legal way to be here. Type of thing. Or if you have a criminal record, it'll say, you were convicted of X, Y, and Z at a certain time, point, whatever. So the immigration attorney has to either admit or concede to those things. Okay. And then the judge will basically be like, okay, well, what is your legal way to stay? Because if you don't have a legal way to stay, then they're just going to get an order to be deported. Mm-hmm. So legal way to stay, meaning, are you filing for asylum? Okay. Did you come here and you need to file for asylum? Are you married to a U.S. citizen and you need time to file for your green card? Okay. You know, do you have maybe U.S. citizen, you know, parents or something like that can file for you? Whatever, you know, stuff like that. Or do you have other claims, you know, trafficking, victim of trafficking, VAWA, U visas, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And then you state what your claim is and they give you time.
How about that? Was my next question. Do you get, if I'm panicked and I pick one of those, it's going to be like, show us evidence.
Yeah,
or it's going to be like, you got 30 days to produce.
Yeah, you get time to file and then they will reset your court hearing. In the meantime, your attorney can attempt to get you a bond because there are bonds in immigration court.
Of course.
And you have to show, obviously, you're not a flight risk, you know, that you have a legal way to stay, you know, you have ties to the community, things like that. Yep.
Unless you're married to the president or dating the president.
Well, he's shicey too, so he might send you off too. You just never know. He might send you off too.
It's insane.
Which is interesting because
that's actually scary.
All of his women were
immigrants. Absolutely. And the
that part.
The chain migration he calls it, like when you trying to bring your family to live with you or to be in this country, yeah. Right. But his wife, no, doesn't count. His wife doesn't count.
Right, exactly. Who wouldn't want their family with them?
It's ridiculous.
Well, he's 34, 36 convicted felon. So anything off the table at this point.
I know, and criminals are horrible people. Horrible people.
Literally, I feel like we're gonna have to start writing out.
Them all.
Yeah.
Literally,
but I mean, but surely, like imagine the crimes he's been versus things that we see in like a typical court where someone stole some meat. I mean, I've seen it where someone has been accused of stealing meat from an employer, and I'm looking in the courtroom, and there's like 4 or 5 little brown kids, a wife, and this person is facing deportation and working for an employer who I'm sure was not paying them a livable wage, a minimum wage. I'm sure they're being paid under the table, but or stealing a $5 bag of something from Walmart or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, just versus what Trump's rap sheet is.
It's amazing. Yeah. So once you're deported, is that it? You can never come back?
There's some crimes that are permanent bars. So obviously, let's say you get deported for murder, you never come back. Okay. But if you get deported for certain reasons, there's time frames. So it might be a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, or permanent bar type of thing.
Is it harder to get back once you've been deported?
Mm-hmm.
What's extra questions on the questionnaire?
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, I'm very inquisitive.
That's why I tell people, don't if you don't have to take an order of deportation, just leave.
You can do that?
Mm-hmm. In some instances, you can take voluntary departure. Let's say if you're in removal proceedings, but it's not because of a crime, then they will allow you to take voluntary departure, which looks better on your record.
Sure.
Or, like you were saying about the fiance visa thing, instead of waiting until you get put into removal proceedings and get a deportation order, just go back home and then have the opportunity to come back another day.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I know I'm going to ask. So those people that have been here for a hot minute and just kept their head down, is now a good time? Well, because you've accumulated years. So is now a good time to lift your head up and get legal? Would that be advice you would give them, or just kind of still keep your head down?
Because it seems like get legal.
Why wouldn't it?
How you gonna get legal? Are you married?
Well, you better get on that show. You better call 90 Day Fiance and see what you can work out. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, there are people that have been here for 20 plus years. They have businesses because don't forget, in order to pay taxes and work, you can still get an EIN or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that type of thing. They have businesses, all of that type of stuff, but they can't get status because let's say they're married to another person that's undocumented. You might have kids here in the U.S., but your kids are going to give you status.
Yeah.
So now is the time to.
And then you would have to declare a home country, which means that you could be. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Now is the time to bring your head up above the sand and prepare. Meaning, get all your paperwork in order for your children. Make sure that you have powers of attorneys and things like that. Okay. Because what if your kids are school age kids, they're in school, something happens to you, who's going to go pick them up? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Medical situations, things like that. So now is the time to start preparing and not keeping your head in the sand and just kind of, hoping that nothing. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
4 years is a long time.
Yes.
Unless somebody.
I'm not doing this with y'all.
You know, that ear thing,
I'm not doing this with y'all. I'm not doing this with y'all. Okay, so y'all made me lose my train of thought. I actually had a question that y'all ruined because of y'all shenanigans. Okay, any other advice that you would give just from your personal expertise or anything else that we should know?
So I say, okay, so aside from preparing, call an attorney. Okay, book a consultation and pay for that consultation to see if you have a way to stay. Because what we do is we screen you and we ask you so many questions that we might find a way for you to stay that you didn't even know that you had. Yep. So figure out what your options are. Don't just think, oh, I don't have any options. Pay that fee and just go talk to an attorney and get their knowledge.
It's worthwhile.
What's your fee? What's your fee? Since you here,
you have to call you.
My fee is low. My fee is $199. You can't pay $200 to come talk to me for at least 30 minutes and really find out that you can stay in the U.S. Because you know what, you were a victim of a crime 2 years ago, and you got robbed, and now you can get a U visa. It might take 20 years, but at least you have a way.
Yeah, at least you can show that you're in status.
Exactly.
That's a question.
Things like that.
Could that save you? Let's say you were in process of that and you get stopped. Does the system show that you're in process to become a citizen? So
I tell people carry your paperwork. So carry your receipt notices to show that you have a filed case. Wow. I'm also telling everyone that, let's say if you don't look like you belong here, carry a copy of your birth certificate. Carry a copy of your naturalization paperwork. Yeah.
Wow.
Like just like you have your registration in your car.
Wow.
Yeah, that part.
Fold all that stuff up in your insurance and have it in your car also.
Yeah, but that's crazy if you don't look like you belong here.
No, it is. But guess what? It's going to save you from being detained for 4, 5, 6 hours trying to prove
panicking
that you belong here.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Just lift it up.
It's important.
This is
so important.
This is,
I tell most of my staff is Hispanic. Most of my staff. But they were born here. But they don't look and sound like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, if you don't have your birth certificate, like I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to see your birth certificate, your naturalization papers or whatever, and I want to see you put it in your car.
Yeah.
That part. Okay. Final thoughts. Anything you want to leave with the people? I mean, you left a lot. I love this.
And you know what? I could talk about this all day. And like, there's so much. And, Simone, you brought up so many things that, is happening. Like, we could talk forever.
Don't make me do it. I do part 2. Don't make me do a part 2. I do part 2, but I feel like I need them. So don't tempt me.
It's one thing that we need to do is, like I said, like step up, get prepared, realize that it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And just figure out ways, even though it sounds so above and beyond, and I'm not, creating fear, because the TV is creating fear.
Oh,
like,
every
you know
day,
what I'm saying? That type of thing. But you got to get yourself into a position where, you have the power and like, what's happening. I'm also telling people, tell your children, okay? Because what is happening is if you're undocumented, and let's say your children are undocumented, they don't know that they're undocumented. Yeah. They don't know that they're not citizens. Okay. You need to have that candid conversation with your kids in this era to let them know, hey, babe, this is how it happened. Yeah. This is how we got here. You're not a citizen, and this is what you need to be prepared for.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be blindsided.
Oh, yeah. Heard those stories.
Those type of things. So just, it's like, we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we hate it, you know what I'm saying? And as much as we're so pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. Well, that's fine. Okay. Now,
this is reality.
Put your shoulders back and like, let's go.
Get
like,
prepared,
what we going to do?
Yeah, this is
how
reality.
we gonna fix this? Yeah. Fix your situation. So.
How do people find you?
So, I'm trying to think. I'm on all social media.
You really are. But you got to look twice because it's not like a lawyer page. She's just like living her best life. You're like, wait, what? She's like living her. I have to remind myself when I say, I'm like, she really does her job, and this is part of what she does. Like,
I do have lawyer pages. I have @LaGrone Law. I'm on IG. I'm on TikTok. I am on LinkedIn, Facebook. Yes, all over the place. You can also call my office at 678-250-5449. If you're down in the U.S. Virgin Islands, it's 340-626-0778. We are by appointment only, so just call us and book an appointment.
And Sherry took how much that is. It's not a lot. So
it's not.
For your safety and sanity, you should probably go ahead and book that call. If you've been keeping your head down, let's put it up, because you never know when you may go through a checkpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you think you don't have an option, you don't know that you don't have an option until you really talk to an attorney to figure out yes or no.
Normally that line, I'd be like, man, but this one, you should really, like, this is not, he's not playing. And unless you want to go someplace you've never been, you might want to handle that. Simone, final thoughts?
Yeah. No, all powerful advice. I'm going to be remembering these handles and that number on the side, because you do never know. Literally. We talked about being afraid to travel, so definitely encourage everyone to be prepared for the worst. Be prepared, and even if that means freedom papers, which is what it sounds like it means. Freedom papers.
Yes.
Keep them on your person. That's what it sounds like.
Keep them freedom
papers on you.
Yep.
It's awful.
No,
got my birth certificate.
All right, so special thanks to our guest, Attorney Melanie. And this is a lot more than I anticipated. So my wheels are turning. I'm thinking about who I know. I'm like, who head down that I might need to be like, listen, I got this friend. You might want to, make this call. This is a friend. Stay safe, stay smart in these streets. And we will see you same place, same time on the Leadership Been Live podcast with your host, Ricardo Rice, and co-host
Simone Sheree.